This is Sarah Neal Seacrest on my final presentation over the community-based research methods I performed over Abernathy, Texas. So to begin, I'm going to go through the background of Abernathy. So Abernathy, Texas is a small town. It's only 1.2 square miles, and as you can see on the map, it's located in the northwest Texas, almost up in the Panhandle. According to the 2010 U.S. Census, the population was 2,805 and is located in Hale County. More on the background of Abernathy, Texas. I did choose this community because it is where my husband grew up, and it's only 19 miles north of Lubbock. After getting to visit multiple times, I have firsthand been able to see the physical state of this community. Some things that I've noticed are that there are a lot of unpaved roads, mainly in residential areas, around businesses, and all throughout the community. This does hinder access to walking and running and other types of exercise on these roads. Additionally, there are two big companies, Plains Grain Co. and CityGen Waste, that are right off the interstate and right across the community. So things I noticed are that waste from these communities, waste from these companies could be of potential harm to the community of Abernathy. I saw a lot of waste when performing my windshield survey, and I did not see any signs posted warning community members of potentially harmful chemicals that these companies are using. In the community, there's only one healthcare clinic. There are no dentist office, no hospitals, and no mental health care facilities. The one healthcare clinic is owned by Covenant Health. Some resources in the community include one senior center, 13 churches, one school, one city hall, and one community park. And pictured here is the City Hall of Abernathy. So after performing all of my assessments, I created a breakdown of each one just to explore the process that I went through in performing these community-based research methods. So to begin, I'm going to go through my secondary data findings. So this is just a picture to show the Excel document that I made over this extensive process of finding data on Abernathy, Hale County, Texas, and the United States. There are a few things that really stood out to me from this secondary assessment. This graph shows a really large amount of information that stood out to me from this assessment, mainly these demographic comparisons. So as you can see, compared to the United States, Abernathy has a lot higher poverty rates, a lot higher population with no health insurance, and a lot higher unemployment rate. Additionally, health-wise, obesity, diabetes, and low birth weight are a lot higher in Abernathy compared to the United States in the 2010 U.S. Census. According to the census as well, heart disease is the first leading cause of death in Abernathy, with cancer and chronic lower respiratory disease following. Heart disease is also the leading cause of death in the county of Hale, Texas, the United States, and worldwide. So this really grabbed my attention moving forward in my community-based research methods. So to move on to the primary data assessments that I performed, first I'm going to discuss my windshield survey. So with Abernathy only being 19 miles away, I was able to go with my husband to Abernathy and perform this video survey, which can be found on YouTube with the link shown below. Here's some screenshots of the video that I did make. Here's Dairy Queen and Nana's Donut Shop, which are two of only the 4 restaurants in Abernathy. And then in the top right, there's Lowe's Market, which is the only grocery store in Abernathy. Additionally, I saw a large gap in income and households In Abernathy, as you can see on the left, there's a lot of houses that are run down on these unpaved roads, and then on the right you can see there are also a lot of really developed houses with higher income families. So again, from this survey, I was able to see there are a lot of unhealthy restaurants in Abernathy. They only have one grocery store, only one park that is not really well kept. I did not notice a lot of workout facilities. I saw a lot of low-income housing and really no community signs of any effort towards healthy living in the community or pertaining to any of the restaurants or markets. So next, I decided to perform my key informant interview based on these physical activity resources and these lack of nutritional food resources. So I wanted to focus mainly on cardiovascular disease pertaining to these things I just mentioned: poor diet, lack of exercise, and really the big one I wanted to focus on was lack of access to healthy foods. So I just wanted to know opinions of community members if they thought these were issues, and just kind of wanted to see their thoughts and just explore opportunities that community members thought firsthand could be able to be acted upon. So key informants that I considered were members of the Abernathy ISD. The one gym I did find, Refuel Strength Training, potentially members that are employees of this business, employees of Dairy Queen, Little Slice of Heaven, 924 Stakeout, which are all restaurants, Lowe's, and then potentially just Abernathy community members. So I did decide on a member of the staff of Abernathy ISD and then an Abernathy resident to perform my key informant interview. So my key informant interview was performed on Richard Rosales, who's the assistant principal of Abernathy Elementary School, and then his wife, who insisted on being a part of this interview process, Miss Tracy Rosales, who's just a community member. After performing this interview, my key informants did very clearly show that they believe obesity is a problem. They pointed out that they noticed kids frequently eating things such as Cheetos for breakfast before coming to school. They see a lack of knowledge on how to cook or eat healthy. They noticed that restaurants don't provide healthy foods, neither does the Lowe's Market, and they don't think healthy living is a priority in the community. They saw money as a challenge, and they did desire educational programs to help the community. Next, I developed my community survey, again furthering these topics that I've mentioned. So in my community survey, I titled it Eating and Exercise Habits of Abernathy Residents. So I really just wanted to explore the current eating and exercise habits of Abernathy residents to see if they were getting access to things in Lubbock or other surrounding towns, or if they were not at all, since their local community did not offer them directly. So some example questions that I developed were ranking how often they eat at restaurants in Abernathy, ranking the importance of different qualities when deciding where and what to eat, and then how many meals people are preparing at home versus eating out. So next is my photo voice assignment. This one I actually performed on myself and not Abernathy. So here's the cover from mine that I made on my life as an MPH student. But through this assignment, I learned that pictures are worth 1,000 words, and pictures are able to elicit a great deal of emotions that just plain words cannot always elicit. Pictures are also capable of putting the observer or listener into the context of the community that you're describing, and they're a great way to facilitate discussion about community problems and other public health issues because they are a more accurate representation of the community and the problems at hand. Next was my focus groups. So really for my focus groups, I wanted to learn more about nutritional food, specifically in high school students. Again, for my Key Informant interview, I saw high school students as being the best target because they can influence other students as well as their parents and grandparents, and they have the time and already are in place so much to learn that I really think this is the best population to target. So in that, I wanted to get a great variety, get males and females, different grades, different socioeconomic status, athletes, non-athletes. And I wanted to start off these focus groups by just sharing their favorite foods and getting them kind of on the topic of food, to open up the floor for them to be able to share. So again, the main goals from these focus groups would be to learn what they define as health and healthy foods, how often they eat out, their family's budget, how important nutrition is to them, how they think their eating habits affect them and their lifestyles, and their resources to nutritional foods in the community of Abernathy. So after all of these primary data assessments, I then worked to develop a survey by coding my Key Informant interview. So I did perform a qualitative data analysis. So I chose these 8 tags. Lack of knowledge and education was the highest out of all of these tags. So I decided to further break that down into lack of resources and lack of food resources and lack of exercise resources. And lack of food resources had 7 markers, where lack of exercise only had 3. So this really directed me and the rest of my methods to focus more on food than exercise. And from this, I was able to conclude that education can be implemented to improve these lack of resources. So overall, from these assessments, areas of interest were access to nutritional food, education on nutritional value of food, access to exercise facilities, education on the importance of exercise and healthy eating, and knowledge of cardiovascular disease, which again, as I'll discuss later, I did choose to guide myself in the direction of mainly access and education on nutritional food. So next I moved to my community health development, and I'm going to discuss the process and planning, resources, gaps, best practices, and recommendations. So after evaluating all of these assessments that I just discussed, I really wanted to explore programs that could educate the community and ameliorate resources for community members as well. So action items that I concluded from these assessments, resources that needed to take place were increasing the knowledge of existing resources, such as the Lowe's Market produce section, and then working to expand those resources as well to more healthy options. Education is a really strong action item pertaining to this topic as well. I wanted to explore creating programs for children and their families on nutritional food and exercise importance. And then finally, informing the community members through newspapers, social media, etc., on the importance of nutrition and healthy living. So in terms of development, some gaps in the process were a lack of interest in healthy living and nutritional food among community members. The best practices I saw were to educate and inspire community members to strive for healthy living. And then recommendations were implement program in an existing community gathering, such as a football game or a festival or a city meeting or a Christmas event or something where the community members are already gathering. So again, from these key findings, I really decided to zoom in on access and education pertaining to nutritional food. So this is the issue I selected: lack of access to healthy foods. So next I'm going to move into my intervention plan. So the specific behaviors I wanted to address in my intervention were the foods that community members are purchasing, their spending habits, their interest in healthy living overall, to ameliorate their knowledge, and to increase optimism about the health of the community. So initially my intervention, I wanted to create a farmer's market. There's already a local farm in Abernathy that sells their milk out of their farm. They work on a cash trust base, so people can come and grab milk and ice cream and cheese and just leave money. So I thought starting with this community company would be a really strong way to create some sort of farmers market and get other local farmers on board with selling their products as well, to promote healthier living and to increase the access of healthy foods for the community members. Through this, I thought creating an app on social media would be really helpful, since it is such a growing platform today. This could really help these more isolated farmers draw closer to the community itself. So through the intervention, instead of having community members eat out, I want to see them making more home-cooked meals instead of having unhealthy foods at school. Potentially the schools could even be purchasing produce from these farmers, as well as the local restaurants, as well as Lowe's Market, and as well as individual community members themselves. So from this intervention, hopeful outcomes would include increasing their access to the healthy foods, really working to increase interest in personal health and physical health, which would come after this intervention, promoting community-centered events such as the farmer market, and really promoting investment in healthy living to ultimately decrease the incidence of cardiovascular disease in the community. So next I'm going to move to my evaluation plan. So I decided to shy away from the farmers market and instead create a healthy foods festival. Again, I wanted to create something that happened at a community event that's already taking place, and so I decided to create this festival that would happen before Abernathy football games in the fall. Abernathy football is a highlight of the whole community and one of the largest gatherings of the community once a week in the fall. So it's a great way to target the community in a way where they're already together and excited about an event. And so hosting a festival before the game with vendors and local farmers and really promoting education and access to food and even selling healthier foods could really create this exciting atmosphere. It could potentially be hosted once a month and could even turn into a Saturday event with increasing optimism, which could turn into workout classes, some sort of 5K run with the festival following, and so much more could take off if this festival was successful. So also in this festival, we mainly will be looking at local restaurants, farmers, the actual football field facilities, and all the attendees to be our inputs. So we would also want to talk to local farmers, restaurant owners, and the Abernathy ISD pertaining to the activities. At the festival, we would want to serve the entire community, sell food, and educate through pamphlets or community speakers. Some outcomes is that we would want to increase the knowledge of community members, have community members purchase local healthier foods, and hopefully move the local restaurants and schools to offer healthier options. Long term, we would love to see the impact of a lower incidence of cardiovascular disease in the community more local produce being sold, and just a really strong movement towards enthusiasm pertaining to healthy living. Measuring this festival and the progress of it can be done by gathering information pertaining to the sales from the food that is sold, also taking count on the amount of pamphlets that are given out, and having speakers take notes or even record their conversations with community members. We can graph these sales and also graph the sales at the Lowe's Market and the local restaurants if they too decide to move towards offering healthier options from this foods festival. So next I'm going to move to my advocacy plan. So I decided to really advocate to ameliorate the amount of produce and organic food consumed by Abernathy community members. I wanted to do this by advocating for improved marketing strategies in Lowe's Market and the local restaurants so that consumers are able to more knowledgeably select and purchase foods. This could be done by, instead of having candy at the checkout, have healthier alternatives, or eliminating sugary foods at the checkouts at local restaurants. So additionally, developing some sort of rating system at the market and the local restaurants can show community members where these local restaurants are in terms of healthy living and where they are in terms of these standards on release of nutritional information and just encouraging healthy living in the community. So that is it for my community-based research methods on Abernathy. If you have any questions or want more information, my email is here on the screen. And I just wanted to say thank you. It has been a wonderful journey getting to work on this community all semester. I have learned a lot and really believe that I could give every one of these presentations to Abernathy community members and really work to make a tangible difference. So again, thank you for your time.